Good evening and welcome to the June 24th, 2026 Town of Hollis Planning Board meeting. Looking around, I see that we have 4 members in the room, and we also have one member on Zoom. Greg, are you with us? That's all right. Perfect. Hey, Greg.
Hey, wasn't able to unmute myself there, but yes, I am here.
I believe you've just been made a co-host so that you can unmute yourself at will. Wanted to announce that one of the members of the planning board, Danielle Bradbury, was elected to the select board at our elections on June 9th. So our loss is the town's gain. We want to thank Danielle for her service to the planning board. I personally enjoyed getting to know her, and I'm looking forward to seeing the great things that she does for the town over on the select board side. And she is always welcome to come on over and give us a report or let us know what's going on with the town. So I'll call this meeting to order and do a roll call, starting from my right.
Tom Wachowski.
Heather Sullivan.
Brett Markey.
Butch Gannett.
And we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. One other thing to mention is that at the election, this is our first meeting since the election in June, and at that election, the warrant articles that the planning board had put up, I think we had 2 or 3 of them, they all passed. So I wanted to thank the voters of Hollis for helping us do our job. And what that means, one of them, we've now gone from a 7-member board to a 5-member board. And as attrition occurs, like with Danielle, she can't be on 2 boards at one time. So we just won't replace her until we get down to the number 5. No one is being thrown off the board. We could stay at the 6 that we are right now for forever. And that would be totally fine.
Is it 5?
Greg.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's my fault. I said 6. 7, and then they got me with
No, we're
6.
5 in the room.
Now 4 in the room.
Oh.
Don't worry. It's not your fault either.
So we are now down to the number of 5, which is the number that the residents just agreed would make a good number of planning board members. Now that does, we do have an opening for an alternate. We always have, we like to keep people in the hopper. So anyone who is interested in being a part of the planning board, anyone who might join us for meetings on a regular basis, but doesn't want to fully commit yet, that our alternate role is a great role. You basically come to the meetings, but you do not have to vote unless we have less than a quorum. Our quorum number is now 3. So there's got to be 3 board members present in order for us to do any official business.
Just like select board?
Same as select board.
All right.
Same. So back to the agenda. We have some correspondence to look over. We have our kind of standard now packet from Saco River Corridor Commission. The Corridor Commission oversees land use and building permits that are specific to the Saco River Corridor, which is the area on either side of Saco River, and it does run through multiple towns. I see that they had in their latest meeting minutes, or no, I'm sorry, Saco River Corridor Commission also meets at the same time that we meet. So this is their meeting for tonight. They are meeting tonight in Dayton, and they've got a number of unanimous consent applications, meaning that they're routine and appear to meet standards. So unless someone request a specific item to be discussed, they will be considered as a block. So they vote on those as a block. And then there is almost an equal number of applications that are in front of them for discussion. Once the Saco River Corridor Commission makes a decision, if the decision they make on a property if it's in Hollis, then the application comes to us. So we get the environmental focused team of the Saco River Corridor Commission. We get to have their input as we are going forward and making a decision. So until something comes to us that has also been seen by the Saco River Corridor Commission, we appreciate them providing us with these regular updates, and we don't really talk about them unless something is coming in front of us for town of Hollis approvals. Next item on the agenda is a review of the meeting minutes from May 13th.
I will move acceptance.
Any discussion?
I'll second that. If there's no discussion.
No discussion. Okay, Tommy, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Greg, do you want to vote?
Yes.
Terrific. Meeting minutes from May 13th have been approved. And now a review of the meeting minutes of May 27th.
I also move their acceptance.
Terrific.
I second.
And does anyone have any discussion? Hearing none. Tommy, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Greg?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So now the meeting minutes from May 27th have also been approved, and those will be posted on the town website. We now have optional reports. Is there anyone from a town committee or board that would like to give us a report?
I could report for the Comprehensive Planning Committee that we have been meeting for a year. We're pretty much done. There's 5 or 6 chapters that deal with different areas of the town. We're mostly through them. We'll be doing a final evaluation of what we've done. We'll work with Southern Maine Planning on getting things just right so that it can pass. And we'll be having some sort of community involvement. There'll be, I forget what the name of it is, public hearings. There we go. We'll have some public hearings before it comes to a vote. It will probably come next June. And I think one of our major problems, or one of the major things we need to worry about, is getting people interested in the comprehensive plan and coming out to vote. It has to do with what you community members want your town to look like for the next 15 to 20 years. And if you don't come out and express your feelings, there's not much we can do about doing things like you'd like to see them. So we need to have community involvement in this thing when we get ready to have public hearings. That's enough for me.
Yeah, thank you, Butch. I appreciate that. So that folks understand, the planning board is required to align our decisions with what it says in the comprehensive plan. So that's a reason enough right there, in my opinion, to kind of pay attention to what is going into the comprehensive plan. Are we a town that is poised and welcoming growth, business growth, residential growth? Or are we trying to shy away from some of that growth? That's the type of things, that's the overall, I would say the comprehensive plan itself has probably 10 or 15 separate areas, everywhere from transportation. Some of the discussions that we hear sometimes around things like what to do with the TIF money. I think the comprehensive plan is something that can help guide that decision oftentimes. So it is a very important document, and it doesn't get updated very often. I think that, the planning board, the prior a couple chairs ago, he was essential in getting even the select board to agree that we needed to update a 20-year-old plan. And part of the reason is because as a board, we would look at the comprehensive plan, but if it's 20 years old, I don't know if that means, do the residents that live in the town today still want what residents wanted 20 years ago? I can tell you, I want very different things today than I did 20 years ago. So I would assume that other people fall in that category, not to mention the fact that new people move into town, and folks that move into town, they pay taxes as well. So they have a right to have their opinion heard too. And I think that the comp plan is a great place to hear that. We'll do public comments in a minute. So thank you, Butch. Are there any other reports? Hearing none, we can move into old business. So we have got Talent Estates. I will let the board know and the public know that we have not yet SMPDC. So we spoke with SMPDC and we let them know that we need them to review the entire subdivision plan, the whole thing. Things went on hold for a moment while the town attorney waited for a copy of the trust agreement to arrive, so that we continue to have this question of whether or not the applicant, the trust that applied for Talent Estates subdivision, whether that trust can be held, whether the subdivision can be held up due to the actions of a former owner of this Talent Estates property. And that answer is a resounding no. We got that back today. And that is in your packet. We got an email from the lawyer that said the trust is its own legal entity, and you cannot hold someone who is not a beneficiary of the trust. You cannot align that person with the trust. So we just learned today, so I just got approval today to actually have SMPDC move forward with their review. What that means is that we had gotten an extension to the end of this month with the developer. Ashley, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to the developer and letting them know, reaching out to SMPDC and letting them know, if they didn't already, that we do want to move forward. They had said that they weren't going to be able to look at the project until mid-June. Anyway, so from a timing perspective, that it would be done, I think. Can we get a confirmation of when they will look at it and when they think they'll have response back to us? Then we can reach out to the developer on behalf of the property owner and get a better date certain for when we would have them come back in front of the board for the next review. Yeah.
I have a question regarding the town lawyer's response to your
Sure.
query.
Mhm.
And Butch brought this to my attention, but the actual applicant on the subdivision application is the one in question.
So that's the old application. They submitted a new subdivision application, and the applicant is the Grandchildren's Trust. The
So we're
Hotel
just supposed to
Grandchildren's Trust.
forget that it was,
They sold the property to the trust.
Okay.
So yes, we are. That's lawyers for you, right?
but we can go over that with SPDMC and
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, the lawyer is the one that would have to defend the position if we were to take the position of not moving the application forward because of that. And the lawyer clearly says,
Greg has his hand up.
oh, hey, Greg, what's up?
Hey, so I think one thing to note is that prior to the final application, the applicant needs to have their stormwater permit in hand, according to our ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
So this isn't going to be a fast thing for them to come back in front of us once we're ready for final approval, just because the main DEP is taking quite some time on these stormwater permits. they're going well beyond their allotted time that they're supposed to have them done by. Seeing it on every project, so I don't expect it to be a short process.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your knowledge. That does help us from a planning perspective, from a timing perspective. We also, let's see, so that is the trust issue. We can discuss it further if we want, but I wouldn't expect that SMPDC would do more than a cursory review to ensure that, the deed that is actually filed says Grandchildren's Trust, and I'm guessing it, we know it does. So we've seen the deed, so I guess the assumption is that it's actually been filed. That's the only question that I have. We also have a letter from the chief of police. So the applicant is not here today. So we don't want to go into significant detail. I think what we will do instead is just mention what we have, and then we will discuss it when the applicant's back in front of us. It doesn't do any good to discuss it now. Does that make sense to you guys? Mm-hmm. So we have a letter from the police chief, I do it every time. From the fire chief. General gist of it is that there's two things, that he wants to make sure the road is built to town standards, which that is what he says in every subdivision, and no parking signs at the hammerhead to avoid there being folks blocking that hammerhead. And a newer piece, well, we've heard a couple times, but so our ordinances say that a subdivision can either have in-home fire suppression systems, sprinkler systems, or the subdivision itself can put in a cistern tank, which is a large holding tank that holds water. In the event of a fire, the fire department hooks up to it, takes care of the fire. Chief Young.
Yeah.
It's a cost perspective. A cistern is shared. The cost is shared by all the residents of the, it's part of the HOA, I would assume. And the individual sprinkler system has varying in what some people would consider to be high costs. So one of the things that we found over time, we've oftentimes allowed an applicant to go with the cistern tank. But what Chief Young is finding is that we are finding cistern tanks throughout town, or he is finding throughout town, cistern tanks are leaking and they are in need of repair. So he would like to see some additional stiffening of the findings of fact or the conditions of approval that have to do with a cistern tank if we decided to accept cistern tank as the method of fire suppression for that location. He also would like to see a guarantee or a warranty against improper installation. And so we can talk about that further, but just kind of letting folks know that that's what is, what is being found. We have a letter from a resident, Donald Ettinger. He lives near, but he is not an abutter of the subdivision. He had some questions that we aren't going to answer right now, but he had some questions whether there'll be any impacts on the properties on Boulder Ridge and Highland Ridge in Hollis. I'm not sure what is meant by the term impacts. I mean, is that? That could be anything.
Could be light.
Could be light. It could be noise. It could be traffic. It could be other things that could happen as a result of there being a new subdivision put in. So that was his kind of opening question. And then I just wanted to explain that residents that were notified by mail in this case are abutters. Abutters are property owners whose property actually touches the property in question or is directly across the street from the property in question. So in our case, we had abutters in Hollis. We also had abutters in Waterboro. So we did follow through and make sure that abutters in both locations, basically with our GIS software, which is land, it maps out the land. You can also get a list of abutters. So our team in town hall pulls a list of abutters and then notices that's who the notices are going out to. So if your property does not touch the subdivision property, you don't get a notice. That is why some did and some didn't. There's some further questions here about how the roadway is going to be connected. There are a concern around the snowmobile and ATV trail that we brought up at our last meeting, that the developer is going to come back and give us an update on. And they also ask if a public hearing, public hearing is optional at the final review stage. We have not even gotten through the provisional review or the first review. But let's keep in mind that we did have a specific request to include a public hearing as part of the final review. All right. Then we have a well capturing letter from another resident, Paul Mator, Paul's former planning board chair. And Paul provided us with a very detailed review of the subdivision plan and identified some important pieces of it that I think most of us are planning on asking the developer the next time they're in front of us. Ashley, the developer got a copy of all this, right? Great. So we won't go through that in particular, but I did want to ask a question. Butch, so I just learned today that there, is it Civil Consultants is an engineering firm that we have used in the past. Do you recall that, or is that something?
You're talking about 30 years ago.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Well, you have a good memory.
I can drop a name here. Anderson. It was an outfit, seems to me they were down in Scarborough. I don't know if Greg can shed any light on that or not, but we used them extensively whenever we had subdivisions or things that needed to deal with traffic and stuff like that.
Okay. So I guess the question here is we have SMPDC. Do we also want to send it to a civil engineering firm?
I wouldn't think we need to send it to both.
Okay.
They were usually very prompt with this stuff.
Okay. So that's
Hey guys,
Hey, Greg.
Butch, I would disagree. I don't think SMPDC is a civil engineer, or do they employ a civil engineer? They're more of a planning company. So I don't think they can provide the civil review that this project would require or deserves. I think that's more of they can address the planning issues and the ordinance issues, but as far as a engineering perspective, I think we should look at a second engineering firm.
Well,
I can provide some recommendations, but I do think that should be something that should be put to bid, as it is a town service. But I do have some recommendations that we could use otherwise if we didn't want to go that route.
Well, Greg, I wasn't suggesting that we not use an outside engineering firm. I was just figuring we didn't need to spend our money in two different places for the same kind of answers.
It's not our money.
Yeah, I think the developer has to cover that cost.
Right. Well, that's true, but
Whether who pays for it, I don't think that SMPDC would be looking at the same type of things that the engineering firm would. I think the engineering firm would be double checking the stormwater calculations, those type of things, rather than ordinances. And they'd be double checking the main, the stormwater permit stuff, rather than is the road 20 feet wide, does it meet our ordinances versus an engineering's perspective.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Is that something that we need to vote? I don't think we need to vote on that, do we?
Can't imagine.
So Greg, I like your idea of going out to bid. I'll be honest with you, I'm not as familiar with what the process is in Hollis. I will connect with the town manager, But I think, Greg, would you be willing and able to write up a paragraph on what we would be looking for in going out to bid? And I can send it over to the town manager and get started on that. Because I don't want that to take too long. Or you can just write the whole bid yourself. You can just write the whole thing and then share it with me if you want.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll get something to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, that has to go through town manager approval and likely select board approval. So I'll make sure that the select board and town manager are aware. But I think that the letter that Paul Mador provided to us is a great place to start in terms of what the scope of work would be for an engineering firm review. And we talked about this a little bit when the applicant was in front of us, but does anyone have any? So now we have the planning consultants looking at it. We also have a civil engineer looking at it. Do we feel that those are the only two professional groups that we need to bring on to look at it from our
I think
perspective?
one question that was brought up in the resident Paul Mator's letter was about, and I don't want to get too far in it because the applicant's not in front of us, but there was talk about what are the actual number of lots, how that drives the number of cars in the actual car study, because that can direct a whole bunch of changes or possible issues. And would I don't know that the engineer or SPDMC would be able to resolve that issue.
So
It's a
the
question.
applicant did hire a traffic consulting firm. So I guess the question, or what we should say is we would like to see this built. We would like to see the plan, yes, for the 14 lots, but also for the future plans.
For
So
the
we
complete
need,
build out.
yeah, so we need, so there's some gaps when it comes to what the future plans are.
Because I think the current application is at 14. At one point, it was at 19, and when you do the math on it, it could be up to 24. So maybe
Now,
that's
what
for
I don't really
a
know
later
is,
discussion, but
what I don't know is, so say, 5 years from now, they come back for phase 2, and they said it was only going to be 4 lots, and then now suddenly it gets us up to the 24.
and
I
all
don't
of a sudden,
know
the
how-
big change there is when you go over so many trips a day, now you need an entrance and an exit, and that's that's not going to be a feasible fix, or
Yep.
possibly
Yep.
not feasible. So,
So I do think that more intel. So if we've determined that, maybe we need to take the time to say, what is the maximum number of lots that could possibly be as it stands today? I don't think we can include land that isn't currently owned by the trust. I don't know that we would be allowed to include that. The original plan that came to us when they sold the property to a different owner, that first plan kind of goes away almost. The new owner can pick it up, but I just don't know. I don't know the nuances, and I think it's important that we get that.
I guess SPDMC can help us with.
I think
some
so.
of
I
this.
hope that's what I hope, and so I will put that down as a specific question to them.
I would think questions like the number of lots and things like that would be best answered by planning, so the main planning. Questions about road entrance, road width, turn radius, all that kind of stuff would be for an engineering firm to
Yep.
address.
Yep.
And I think maybe we ought to supply a copy of this letter from Paul Mator to each agency.
Yes. Yep. Ashley, can you make sure that SMPDC gets a copy of Paul's letter? Well, and also actually, let's give them every letter. Let's not. Any letter, if they're going to do the review for us, let's give them a copy of every letter. So that way we're not picking and choosing. I think they may have. But I do agree that I don't know how, like from a legal perspective, if they came in and said, we're the most we're going to ever build more is 4. I don't know how tied to that. what's the legal positioning on
Yeah, I
tying
wonder
to
if,
that.
if we would have to say, well, then the lots that have enough square footage to be a double lot need a rider in the deed that they can't be divided or something of
Or
that
we,
nature.
or we get assessments that are based on that highest possible number.
Yeah.
That might make sense. So we say, okay, the maximum number of lots that could possibly go in here is X. We want to see what the traffic plan would have to look like for that number.
We want the traffic study to be equivalent to the maximum number of lots and trips per day of vehicle.
Yep. Okay. Agreed.
And that's most of that is all in Paul's comments.
Yes. it
Yeah.
is.
Yep. So he said, yeah, town
Pretty
engineer.
thorough
Oh, okay.
comments.
So we have already done the legal review of the trust structure. So Paul, we've accomplished that one. So the two other requests, the town's engineer. Oh, and this is, in the past, this is where civil consultants came from.
South Berwick.
Yeah. And then, of course, Southern Maine Planning. All right. So that takes care of this. We've decided to let the applicant know that we can't move forward at this time and that we will ask for them to agree to an extension. If they don't agree to an extension, then the application dies because we didn't act within the time frame required. And our non-action is it doesn't go forward. It's not the opposite where like, oh, if we don't answer, then it goes forward. That's not how it works. If we don't answer, it doesn't go forward. So most applicants are willing to agree to the
So
extension.
it needs a positive approval is what.
Yeah. Yep. So most applicants, I've noticed when we've had situations where our resources are stretched thin, they've been willing to agree to the extensions so they don't have to redo the application process again. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have someone on the Zoom meeting?
Christy.
Hi, Christy.
Hi. I'm sorry, I have a question. I haven't seen the proposed plan, but I'm just trying to understand. So they're proposing the subdivision, but we don't have like any plans for the houses themselves. Like we have no idea like how many houses or what the layout will be. That's correct.
We
Right?
know how many houses because
Okay.
we know how many houses. So they have come in front of us and asked for a 14 lot subdivision. So that would be 14 residences.
Yes. Okay. But they're not the ones building it. So they're just trying to get the subdivision concept approved. And then do they like sell the land to the builder who's then going to build houses and approach you with those actual house plans?
Or
Is
they
that how
could
that
sell it
works?
to a person who wanted to build a home there and they bring their own builder.
So I guess that's where I get kind of confused because in that case, like let's say, you have people trickle in and maybe, because isn't the subdivision just X amount of houses built within a certain time frame, right?
Mhm.
So like maybe they have this concept for, having so many houses, but then what if they just don't get the buyers for whatever reason, which I'm sure will happen. But like, what if something, I guess, why are they able to get it approved now and not like when they're further along in the process when we have more answers to like who are the builders or the other people involved? Like
It's the same reason that an individual household, single family dwelling doesn't come in front of the planning board. It's the subdivision itself that we are concerned about. We are not concerned about the individual homes that are being built. That is not part of our purview.
That's okay. It's not that we're not
Yeah,
concerned.
no,
It's
no.
that we don't have any authority to regulate the actual building of the house. That's something that code enforcement and the town take on. We're just the subdivision itself side of it.
And nothing's been approved yet.
Nothing's been approved yet.
has there ever been a situation where just public concern has been enough for you guys to decline an application, or do you guys typically just always push them through if
I've
everything?
I've talked about this a couple of times now. If the applicant, whether it's a business, whether it's a subdivision, can check all the boxes that have been required by the town of Hollis, that have been approved by the town voters, then it gets approved. You could have a business come in tomorrow, and I promise I won't get off track here. You could have a business come in tomorrow that all 4,700 residents of Hollis say we don't want here. If they can check the box, they can be here. So our job as a planning board is to make sure that those boxes are checked at the application stage. After the application's been approved and we're sure beyond a reasonable doubt that they're gonna that they've checked those boxes, then it's on the town code enforcement to make sure those boxes are continued to be checked. Does that make sense?
So you're saying if every resident is opposed to it, you guys will still push it through?
It's not that we push it through. It's that we can only act according to the ordinances. So if the developer in this case can show that they are compliant with all the ordinances, we have nothing to hang a denial on, and that puts the town at legal risk. That's a lawsuit.
Yeah. So it's we don't have as a town the legal authority to say no if they can check all the boxes, regardless of how many people don't like it. I won't go off on the tangent. I strongly encourage, if you don't like something, to take the appropriate steps to get it changed through citizen referendums, etc. There's plenty of avenues that can change those things. But as a planning board, our job is to make sure that the boxes for the application get checked. And if they are able to check all those boxes and follow all the Hollis ordinances, we have no legal ability to say no.
Well, and then why do we have public comments and have those hearings if it doesn't matter that people come up opposed to something? And then
this is I agree.
Well, no, but and here's my other thing too, that you've kind of made things very clear for me, because I've been upset for almost 3 years about our development situation. You guys know this.
Yeah.
And I know people came up and, fought against it. And I know that people supplied images of things that they were concerned about, and nothing happened. And I think part of this process is you don't want bad people in your town, okay? You care about your residents, you care about your town. And sometimes people just know something's not right and they want to stop it. And you're saying, and I just look back, as I know there were instances where my situation could have been prevented had somebody stopped and listened. But you're essentially saying it didn't, because even if you listen, you don't want to be legally held liable. But then what happens is if you let people come in and do bad things to your town or to your residents, guess they can get away with it too. So instead of the town taking ownership and protecting the residents, you're kind of passing the buck on to the residents that you guys say you want to hear from and should come in and vote and like voice your opinion, but then also say, tell us all you want. If you all say no, we're still going to do it because they check X, Y, and Z, which is kind of why we're in this whole political environment anyway, right? Money, power, if you have money, you can check all of the boxes because you have the resources, even if people don't like it. That's all I have to say.
Let me put it another way here. It's not that yes, if they come in and they do everything that they legally are supposed to do, they will probably get a permit. But just like what we've been discussing tonight, they come in and show 14 lots. We're not satisfied with that. We want to know what the total number of lots in a build-out. We want to have a traffic study that goes along with that. If for instance, there's 2 lots that are oversized that could be split in the future, we can say, no, that's not going to happen, or we can allow it to happen. It's not just come in here and throw your papers on the desk and we give you a permit and you go home. We look at your application and we do the best that we can to make sure that it's healthy for the town. Now, everybody's opinion of what's healthy for the town is different, but we're up here and we look at the regulations and things that we have to go by, and we try to make sure that these applications fall within those guidelines. That's our job here. Once that subdivision approved, then it's the code enforcement job to make sure that houses are built properly, put where they're supposed to be, driveways are where they're supposed to be, and things like that. There's a lot that goes on before a subdivision is completely built out. I don't know if that helps to answer your question, but it's not slam bang and here you go. There's a lot of thought and a lot of decision to go into it.
I'm just going to add one thing. I agree with what Butch said, and at the same time, I feel your pain out there when you say that, you know, we can see that maybe we can see that the residents are unhappy with it, yet we push it through. The way that we try to work through that is in the next year or two on our list is to update the subdivision regulations. And we get the residents' involvement in that, and we write subdivision regulations that meet our goals as a town with the, the taxpayers, the citizens of Hollis giving us their input so that we can write subdivision regulations that we want to follow and that address some of these concerns. But we can't go off all roughshod and make up rules or deny things. But we can, as a community, work on the subdivision regulations, and we can tighten up what needs to be tightened up or address what concerns need to be addressed. So don't give up on us, Christy. Not that you are at all, but continue to, work with us. And when we go through the subdivision regulations, we'll address things because they probably haven't been done in 10 or 20 years.
Tommy, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. Hey, Greg, did you have anything you wanted to add?
All good. Thank you.
Okay. I will say, Christy, you asked, why do we encourage members of the public to come out and give us their opinion? And that is because we wouldn't know that the subdivision regulations may need to be refined. We wouldn't know about your situation. In this particular case, I think it's safe to say if we didn't know about things that happened before, we wouldn't look at the ownership structure to ensure that the applicant has the legal right to, or the property owner has the legal right to build on their property. I think sometimes people forget that these subdivisions are, the land underneath these subdivisions is owned by a taxpaying resident or taxpayer in the town of Hollis, just like the rest of us. While they're holding it for a potential profit, and we are holding our property for, the quiet enjoyment of country living, that doesn't make one more valuable than the other. Property owner rights are property owner rights. Whether or not, if someone comes in and says, I want to do this on my property, and our ordinances say you can do it, then it's not that we push it through. I think that that's a mischaracterization. We review and ensure that the plan hits all the requirements. It's not a push through. Oftentimes we have our own personal opinions as well about different things. And we, unlike members of the public who can come in and give us their opinion about things, oftentimes we cannot give our opinion, or we can't, I don't know how to say it. We can give our opinion, but in the end, there is a ordinance that we are required to follow. No different than the builder or someone who wants to open a new business. There's an ordinance for them to follow. There's an ordinance if you want to have a fire pit at your house. There's an ordinance you have to follow. That's all we've got that state law, but that's all we have for standards. So we are trying to ensure that what people are doing on the property that they own meets what Hollis residents voted on as ordinances to be the rules. That's why it's important to get involved. I hope that, I know it's not the answer you want, Christy, but that is, I think you've heard from everyone now on the board about, you know, the different pieces of this. Is there any additional things that we can address for you?
No, and I really appreciate you guys all just putting in your input. And I mean, it does, the way that you explain it when it is like their property and what they want to use it for, like, I understand that. But yes, there is just a little bit of frustration, as you guys may know.
Yes.
But I'm happy to hear that you guys have always been encouraging and like asking people to come in and speak up. And so that I've been very appreciative of. But thank you guys for.
Well, we appreciate it when folks do come in and speak up and let us know. We aren't all knowing. I know I certainly am not. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I learn something new almost every time something new comes in front of us. And that's why I enjoy what I do so much, what we do here. So thank you, Christy. I appreciate it. You know you are always welcome, and you are always welcome to share your opinions with us. Anyone in the town is welcome to do that. So I think we have a plan going forward. We are going to reach out to SMPDC. We're going to bid. We're going to put together a bid invitation for the consultant, this engineering consultants. I'm going to encourage us to do that as quickly as possible. We think that the contents of the bid requires our approval? I don't think I've ever looked at something like that before.
I would think if Greg's an engineer,
Yep.
I would think he would know what to write up.
Yep.
And I'd be satisfied with whatever he prepared.
Okay. We can share it by email and then kind of just give our blessing to move it forward. Also, you know, town manager and select board will also review it, I'm sure, before it gets put out to bid. But I will encourage the town to do it on a pretty quick basis so that we can continue to keep this moving, because we know it's going to be pretty much at a snail's pace anyway. So we just got to have our incremental movements on it. All righty, so that puts our old business to rest, and we have some new business tonight. This is the proper. This conditional use permit 2202-4164. And I see that the property owners are here tonight, and I invite you up to the lectern and maybe give us just a brief overview of what you are looking for conditional use approval for.
Yeah. Hey. So yeah, I'm Micah Proper. So we're applying for a conditional use permit for a short-term campsite rental at a property we have. It's a 7-acre property, 3-acre zone. There's a lot of road frontage, somewhere around 1,200 feet. And we're basically looking for approval for a short-term campsite, single-site rental where someone would bring their own camper in, stay for, you know, a short-term period of time. And that's basically about it. Pretty simple.
So I want to call the board's attention to a couple of items that I had Ashley share with us, knowing that we were going to have this conversation. So we are right in the middle of some, I had mentioned that we had a town vote in June, and we have a new zoning use table and some new language in our zoning ordinances that have been approved and are therefore in effect, but have not yet been posted on the town website yet. So I had Ashley print off copies of the zoning use table and the definition section, I think the entire definition section, and then also a section of the performance standards, that's section 6, that talks about RVs, recreational vehicles, which is that we had talked before. You thought that RVs would be one of the main types of rentals. That was the plan.
I would think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah.
So I think first off, we have to determine when an applicant comes in with a conditional use permit, that means that either the use that you're suggesting is in our use table and it's coded as a C on our use table, which means the planning board has to review the project and either approve or deny it. Again, according to the standards that are in our ordinances. The other time that a conditional use permit, a conditional use application might come in front of the planning board is your situation. Hollis does not include on its brand new zoning use table, does not have a use for a single site single camping site that you potentially rent out to others or allow others to use. This is not on your residence. I believe that you've let us know that.
Correct, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that.
Yeah.
So the alternative, we do have a provision in our ordinances that allows the planning board to consider a potential use under conditional use permit provisions if there is it's called a substantially similar use in the provisions in that zone that is either allowed or conditional. So that's why you're here today. Now, we've had situations, oftentimes what happens in these situations is that we learn of new uses that need to get added to the zoning use table or our ordinances. We've had a couple of situations where we've had different, types of businesses come in and we didn't have a use for it. And then we, if the applicant so asked, we would help them look for a different use to apply under. I'm not sure, and I think when we do, because we will ultimately update kind of these applications and stuff, we will actually be asking the applicant, which use do you think in our use table is the one that's substantially similar?
Okay.
Because I know that we have struggled a little bit around which use it actually would be for that. So I know for me, I looked at a couple different things and I'll just kind of go through what I looked at. So a single campsite. So obviously the first thing to think of is campground requirements, right? So is it substantially similar enough to a campground for us to say that's an allowed use? When it comes to campgrounds are licensed by DHHS from Department of Health and Human Services. They are for 2 or more campsites. So you are under the campground, the definition of campground, which is a conditional use in the zone that you're located in. So if you were coming to us and saying, we would like to open a campground and we're gonna have 2 sites, and we're going to go through, and we have gone through the DHHS process. There's a lot of requirements that are in the state law for campgrounds that we as a board can't waive. So there's, risk and reward to that. There's, you have to put in a bathroom. That's an expense. I don't know, from a financial perspective that works for you or not. You haven't let us know what use you thought it would fall under. I also looked at like rooming houses and, the smaller scale, not a hotel, because that's, 16 or more rooms. But I looked at a rooming house, which is anywhere from 1 to 16 rooms. The difference there is that a rooming house is an actual building. You don't have an actual building that you're planning to erect on the property. And that makes the whole, that makes it a little bit more challenging for us to align it. It's not substantially similar because you're not building a building.
Right.
You propose to put in a septic. And I'm not even, a septic and a leach field, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I literally went through the list and looked at every single use and said, okay, is it substantially similar to this? Is it substantially similar to this? The one thing that I was able to locate is in the performance standards. If you look at the performance standards, now we did not change these at the last election. We haven't touched performance standards yet. But there is a performance standard in our ordinances that relates specifically to recreational vehicles, RVs. And to synopsize it, um, many people may not know this, but you cannot occupy an RV in the town of Hollis outside of a licensed campground except for two certain conditions. If you are on a a homeowner who resides on the property that the RV, they want to put an RV in and allow a guest to stay there for a period of time. Tommy uses a great example. Your mom comes from Florida and she stays for the summer and she brings her RV and you're going to have them living in the RV on your property for less than 90 days. That requires that as the homeowner has to grant permission for the RV occupants to use the inside facilities. A lot of this is all around the facilities, the water, septic, things like that. That's a 90-day limit. And then, that's a 90-day limit. The second permissible occupancy of an RV in the town is a landowner to allow one RV to be parked on land if it's not next to your house, so it's not adjacent to your residence, for a period of time not to exceed 15 days in any calendar year. But the RV has to have its own sanitary facilities, and the occupants must receive written permission from the landowner to use the property. There is a further provision in here, but my understanding is that we don't actually have a way we don't actually have a, it indicates that if they're, after 15 days, the RV should take their written permission and apply to the town hall for a vehicle parking permit.
It says the select board specifically.
To the select board specifically. I'm not aware of a vehicle parking permit for the town, so I'm not sure that is.
I assume it's leftover stuff from bygone years
Yep.
that just never got updated.
Could be.
Well, the idea of that requirement right there is so that emergency services and things like that know that there's a unit out here where they might have to respond.
Yep.
That's a parking permit.
But I get it. I don't know how we can tell people to get a permit for something that the town doesn't issue a permit for. So that's a little.
Well, I think that particular part of the performance standard says that they can be there for 15 days.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to be there for more than 15 days, then they need to go
Yep.
and get this parking permit,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
In this case,
It's a little bit different.
well, each got somebody who wants to stay there 14 days, good, so they do. Well, now he's only got 1 day left.
So that's some of the
So-
questions. Yeah.
So if you go by the black and white of it, he can go and get a parking permit and they can start staying there. But I had another thought on the thing, and that is campgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
It says that a campground is 2 or more camping spots.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is written that way so that somebody doesn't come and put 2 or 3 campers on their property, okay, and say whatever they want. But if they get two there, they need to be a campground.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say you couldn't have one there and be a campground. I mean, it's a maximum number there. The 2 is a maximum number, not a minimum number.
I think that could be the case. 2 is also the required number of sites that brings them into state. It requires the state license. So I think that it also, we maybe just followed state law. I'm not quite sure. So, Greg, you had a comment?
Yeah. So when you're reading this RV regulation, that I want to be very clear that or clarification that it says one RV can stay there for up to 15 days.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the RV changes, does it then get a new 15 days? Because I heard the applicants say that they're going to bring their own RV.
Yeah,
Would that not mean that every
renters.
RV gets
Yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't that mean that every RV gets gets 15 days?
I could get 50, could get as much as 15 days. That doesn't mean that the applicant has to allow that. But yes, that.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
think
if they
he's-
allow,
But so I did a little bit of research on this. So I looked into the definition of campground with the state, and really where I was looking was, I didn't understand why we would have this specific standard just for RVs in our performance standards. We have separate campground performance standards, so it didn't make sense to me. But for what Butch mentioned, there is, when times, especially when times get tough, there are situations where someone will have a camper and park it on someone's property and live there. And I think that these provisions were designed to minimize that and or make sure that the town was aware of that from a safety perspective. The thing that kind of the thing that caught me up was the fact that this is something that you would be compensated for. So I looked in and said, is there a difference between an individual campsite, what you're proposing, that is rented out for no money? So you're letting your family use it, you're using it yourself, versus commercial. And what I was able to gather from the state law is that if you are receiving payment for the use of it, that turns it into a campground, even if it's just one site. It definitely does if it's two sites. So I think that for us on the board, we are at the point now where we don't have a substantially similar use that is substantial and similar in order for us to even assess the application against. Does that make sense?
hey, Heather.
That's one of the things that we would talk about.
Just the one on 17 Diamond Lane.
Yes.
I think,
Oh, yeah. Hey, nice to meet you. Jimmy.
I think if somebody's going to address us, they ought to be at the
Yep.
podium.
Yep.
That's fine.
So I will ask, just we haven't seen you. We haven't seen you guys before. There will be opportunity for public comment, but we need you guys to come up during the public comment period, which we're getting to shortly, and on the lectern so that you can be heard over the monitor systems. So, yes, Greg, what's up?
So from what I'm hearing from you guys and trying to keep up, and it sounds like with one campsite, we need a DHS permit from the state no matter what. But if it's only one, from what I'm hearing, it does sound like it could fall under the RV regulation where up to 15 days per RV. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, there isn't a use aligned with. That's where I see the problem. We don't have individual campsite as a use or something
Right.
similar to that, where it's commercial in nature.
So that would not be a planning board issue. That would be a town
That's
code enforcement issue.
that's the
Code
same
enforcement
page.
referred this to us.
Yeah.
So code enforcement looked at it and said, you need to go for a conditional use permit. So
But
that's,
we're not finding a conditional use permit. We're seeing an RV regulation and a state permit. The planning board seems to have his hands pulled back with nothing to do here. And it kind of really goes back to the code enforcement officer. Hey, we have an RV regulation where you can have one RV for 15 days. It doesn't say it could be a different RV for another 15 days, correct?
it doesn't
But
say
there is-
that.
Correct. So ambiguity falls in the favor of the applicant here, in my opinion. But there is some state regulations that he should follow, but that should be on the code enforcement to follow up with and enforce.
So it's my understanding that silence equals not allowed in Hollis. So the ordinance would have to say one at a time or 15 days, but you can do it multiple times in order for that to be allowed. Otherwise, it stands at 15 days out of the year. And I think the reason why that is in front of planning board right now is because that is a performance standard in the zoning ordinance, and zoning ordinances are what we use.
I don't know that it's our job to interpret zoning ordinance for a non-planning board issue. So if it's not meeting any of the stuff in our use table, and it's not a subdivision, there's a very defined thing that the planning board does. It doesn't give exemptions to individuals, respectfully, who are trying to do something that's not on the use table. I don't know that we have the authority as a planning board to give an exemption to an individual for a use that's not on the use table, that doesn't have definitions, beyond, we think it's
similar.
Yeah, beyond, yeah. Well,
That's
that
what
gives us.
we can do it.
We're
for
allowed to
substantially
do it.
similar.
It does say in the bottom of the use table, any use not explicitly, that.
Cool. Then he can apply as a campground and meet all the performance standards for a campground. We can't waive provisions. We can't waive things because it's only one. If he wants to go with substantially similar, then it would be campground. I think we all agree that the most substantially similar use we have is campground, regardless of the fact that it's only one. If he wants to do that, then he can come for a campground permit, for a conditional use permit for a campground, and check all the boxes needed for a campground. We can't, again, my opinion, we can't waive requirements or give someone permission to do something. I just don't think we have the authority to do it.
It says a proposed use may be allowed. Actually, I'll read the whole thing.
Yeah, read it, absolutely.
Any use not explicitly listed in the use table shall be reviewed on a case-by-case basis by the code enforcement officer or the planning board. A proposed use may be allowed if the applicant sufficiently demonstrates the use is similar in character to a permitted or conditional use in the zone and is consistent with the current comprehensive plan.
I don't doubt that it meets all of those things. I don't doubt that what he's asking for is basically a campground. But he's not here to ask permission to put a campground in, because if he was, we could just say, sure, come back with a campground conditional use permit and check all the boxes that we require in campground. Because that's what, if we're going to use substantially similar, then they have to meet all the performance standards of the substantially similar definition. So if he can meet all of the performance standards for substantially similar definition, which would be campground, and the use top to bottom, basically doing this as if it was a campground, then it would be a conversation that the planning board would have. But if that's not the intention, I don't know that we have the authority to grant permission for him to do one campsite without meeting, a use on our use table, because that's what the planning board does. We conditional use permits, subdivisions.
So section 7 of the zoning ordinances define exactly what we can review a conditional use permit for. So I went through this, and there's I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 reasons that we can review a conditional use permit, or that we are required, that people are required to have us review. Yeah. And this doesn't meet any of them. Because of what it is. So anything that's marked as a conditional use on the use table comes in front of us. If you're modifying any building that currently or is proposed to contain 3 or more residences, that comes in front of us. If you are going to establish or expand a mobile home park, if you are going to install or expand 2,000 or more square feet of non-residential floor area, or the establishment of a new non-residential use involving greater than 2,000 square feet of floor area. That requires you to have a building. So, because floor area is defined in our ordinances as of a building. The conversion of an existing building or use in whole or in part from residential to non-residential use. I mean, maybe this could fit in there, kind of, but again, we don't have that like conditional use to apply it against. And then installation or expansion of 4,000 square feet or more of impervious surface. I don't even think any of this, I don't think any of it is impervious surfaces. You weren't planning on putting any pavement down.
Right, yeah.
And then the change of use, if it's an existing facility, an area of 4,000 square feet or more, or a change of use generating 10% or more increase in motor vehicle trip generation from the site. Maybe that would, I don't know Diamond Lane. I don't know if you had an RV coming in and out once a month, that's 12 additional trips. I don't know if that's 10% of the total trips that are aligned with Diamond. And then if you were going to have a drive-through window, you'd have to have a building to have that. And any earth-moving activities that are not associated with a building project. So if you were just going to be digging up, or if you were going to be moving earth, just mining for gold at a greater than 1,000 cubic yards, then that would come in front of us. There are some exemptions that even if they meet one of those requirements, if you are a single or a two-family home on an individual lot, you don't have to come in front of us. And then expansion of an existing conforming use, which that's not, conforming means that you are, it's a use that is allowed and you wanted to expand it in some way. You had a business there and you wanted to put 10 additional parking spots.
Can I jump in here
Yeah,
a minute?
please.
We're beating around everything in the regs here. We're doing our best not to decline this thing, but I think, Micah, the best thing for you to do is to come in with a conditional use permit for a campground. And if that's going to take a state license, then contact the state and see what the requirements are going to be.
Sure. Yeah.
Heather said something about needing bathroom facilities. If you're going to put a septic system in there and you're only going to have RVs that are self-sufficient and can hook up to that septic system, that might satisfy a state's requirement there. But I think the best thing and the fastest thing is for you to come with a conditional use permit for a campground.
Yeah.
All
right. Yeah.
Whether you're going to have 2 or 3 or 1.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing to do.
All right. Yeah.
Rather than, spend a couple hours here trying to figure out
Right.
how
yeah,
we can
it
help
seems
you
like-
out.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a good path.
Why
yeah,
did we-
Yeah.
So there is one other path forward, and that is to do a citizens referendum and write an ordinance that allows the type of use that you're looking for, and then bring it to the select board and have the select board agree to put it on the next warrant article. So that is the way that things also can change.
Okay, yeah.
So
Good to know.
there's
Yeah.
kind of 2 paths that you can go for. I will say that when I was doing my research, it does appear that the Department of Health and Human Services is willing to waive some of their requirements for a smaller campground. So you may find that works for you. I've got Greg. Greg?
Hey, I was just reading some ordinance as well. You guys were talking. I'd like to retract my earlier statements. That one RV does have a limit of 15 calendar days, so that wouldn't be an option for this applicant.
What if you had an RV, a set of different RVs, but only 15 days total in the year? Think that would work?
So it has a maximum of 15 calendar days, then at which point they would need to go to the select board to coordinate necessary emergency and regular services. So that's ordinance 6.24.4. Those numbers might have changed since the election. I'm
Yeah,
running
they
off
did.
the website ordinance, but that's a very gray area when it says go to the select board. So I'm not sure what that would entail.
think one other thing that I've just put a note down on is we are reviewing the conditional use and site plan review section at some point. And I've made a note in here that the language that you see on the use table doesn't exist anywhere in the ordinance. So we need to marry those two up. And what that looks like, I'm not sure. But I think that is also maybe part of the problem, is that our use table, which is part of the ordinance, references something that we don't have any direction on how to do it.
Okay.
It's not the only thing that looks like this. So do you have any questions for us? Is there anything that we can clarify?
No, I think you've given me some good direction to go in. So I couldn't just get a parking permit after the 15 days. It's the money transaction that kind of would defeat that purpose.
I think so. Yeah, it's the commercial purpose.
All right.
I think that's when I was researching, that was the one thing that I couldn't like work around. That's
Sure.
me. Look,
Yeah.
I'm a workaround type of person.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was the one thing that I continued to kind of butt up against was the commercial purpose,
Yeah.
which obviously, if we just talked about, landowners can do what they want on their land, subject to the ordinances. And I think
Right,
this is
yeah.
a good example of things in the other direction. We don't have an ordinance that allows what you're contemplating. And I did mention citizens initiative. You can also write an ordinance and bring it to the select board and say, are you willing to put this on the warrant without going through citizens initiative?
That's what I did with the food sovereignty ordinance.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can you
sovereignty.
explain real quick what the food sovereignty ordinance is?
Yeah. So the food sovereignty ordinance started because the planning board had suggested, or excuse me, the select board had suggested through SMPDC changes to our zoning ordinance that would restrict farmers from doing the things that farmers have done for generations. I didn't like the way that conversation was going, so I grabbed a food sovereignty ordinance and went to the select board originally with the intention of collecting signatures to get it put on the ballot. The select board was gracious enough to just put it on the ballot, assuming that the residents would like it, and it was something that the town was in favor of, and they voted in favor of it, and it got passed.
All right. Yeah.
If you write a ordinance and regarding short-term rentals or whatever you're trying to do, basically, bring it to the select board at any select board meeting. You can present it to them, just give them a heads up, talk to their secretary ahead of time, and just give them a copy of it so they have they'll put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then, like I said, they'll discuss it at the meeting and give you their feedback and stuff like that and tell you which way they think you should head. Because at the end of the day, as we found out, the select board is the ones that decide, what goes on the warrant and what doesn't go on the warrant. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a good idea to have something kind of more concrete that you can hand them and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Give me your, tell me what you think.
All right.
And because
Yeah.
they're really the be all end all as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks
And then,
for that.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're not really the be all and end all. They just decide that it goes out to vote.
Yeah.
The be all, in that sense, they're the be all
Yeah.
and end all. And then the
Yeah,
citizens are
the residents are the ones that,
Yeah, I like that a lot, Tommy.
Assuming that
I think that's a really good idea.
select board does say, yes, well, either you collect your signatures. So I've been involved in both. When we wrote cannabis business laws, we did not, the select board at that time wanted to work on allowing these businesses.
Yep.
So I didn't have to go through the citizens initiative. However, I was affiliated with the non-public public library. So with our non-town public library. And the library's funding got cut one year off the budget, and the library chose to go and put together a citizens initiative to have the funding amount, the residents decide whether or not the funding amount that the library was going to get would be at the amount requested or at the amount that the select board cut it to. So I've actually been involved in both. Doing it the food sovereignty way is way easier.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds
Yep.
like.
And you can often find similar ordinances in other towns. I noticed that I would look for the closest town ordinance that had a single site, commercial single site camp ordinance or provisions in their ordinance. And the closer you can get to Hollis in terms of size, look, Hollis doesn't want to be Portland. So an ordinance that is written for Portland is often too much for
Right, yeah.
Hollis. Whereas
Similar,
something written
yeah.
for Leamington or Lyman or Dayton is often is very consistent with what Hollis
Yeah.
oftentimes.
Yeah, that
I
makes
can't
sense,
say
yeah.
consistent in terms of whether or not they approve it, but in terms of the extent of the wording, you do not need a lawyer. You may have a lawyer, of course, everyone can have a lawyer, but you would be surprised that if you just kind of like read a couple of other town ordinances, you can get a really good
Yes,
feeling
could be
for what is
written
appropriate
already,
and
yeah.
what people care about.
Yeah.
And I would say in this case, I would say the septic, so the wastewater, we want to make sure there's no environmental damage
Yeah.
from it. We want to ensure health and physical safety. So maybe some lighting.
Yeah.
That might be something that would be, would help promote that. But in the end, that is up to the residents. And then it becomes, if the residents say, yes, we want to allow this type of use, then it goes into our ordinances. And then that is what we use to make our decisions against.
Okay. Yeah. Great. That's good
All
advice.
right.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate
Well, you're
it.
welcome. Thank
Yeah,
you for coming out. Thank you for
I've got
coming
one
out as well.
question, Mike,
Oh,
before
go
I
ahead.
go. Your deed that was in your package talks about a 10-acre parcel. And then it has an accepting this other certain parcel. And you spoke tonight about 7 acres.
Yeah.
And that other parcel was 3 acres, so I guess that probably takes care of that.
Yeah.
Question that I
Yeah.
had.
It used to be 10 and then 3 was sold off of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
18 years ago or 20 years ago, something like that.
Got to know all these details, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When you
they're
get
all
someone
important.
like Butch who's he's reading everything.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you guys coming out.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So, do we need to formally? Do we need to formally deny the application? I think we may need to.
I'm just trying to let you know,
Probably, is he going to withdraw it? or-
Oh, okay.
Call them to order.
because you have those apartments, it wouldn't let them do it. Any more roads off in Diamond Lane.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
Excuse
we've
me.
got- yeah,
We're
we
gonna
have to
keep
interrupt.
going.
I'm sorry. Micah, can we just have you come up for one more second? So we can do one of two things here to finish our side of it. We can either deny the application or you can withdraw the application.
Yeah.
Is there one of
What-
those?
What would you prefer I do?
Withdrawal is just
Yeah,
easier.
I'll withdraw the application then, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. We
All right.
appreciate that.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank
Hope to
you,
see
yeah.
you again soon with.
if you have any questions, just feel free. Admin secretary, planning board secretary, any of them.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then they'll do their absolute best. We'll do our absolute best to answer, the best we can to try to figure out how to work through that. And
Great, yeah, good to know.
Yeah. And if
Thank
you want,
guys
if
for
you
your
do
help.
end up drafting something and you want us to take a look at it, we can't necessarily endorse it. But certainly we could say, hey, it looks like there might be a gap here. If you're going to put this in front of the select board, you might want to address this. I think that, we wouldn't, I don't know that we can't do that as a board. Yeah. That just wouldn't be a thing that the board, unless the select board brought it to us and said, hey, will you look at this?
Okay.
Which, you can ask them to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much. All right. So there we go. Thank you for whoever recommended or thought of withdrawal. Now we're up for public comment. Do we have any members of the public that would like to come up and speak with respect to either of the items that we talked about tonight or a new, come on up. All you need to do is just let us know your name and please just share what you're thinking.
My name is Donna McCufka, and I live on 117 Diamond Lane. And when I bought on that property with my husband going back in 2003, we were told that there were no more houses that were going to be built on that road because the road cannot sustain any more than what it has. And the town would not take it over. So we pay for that each year. And there was supposed to be no other houses put onto that road. And it's a residential property, and we love it. And I just can't imagine a campground with people that we don't know who is going to be there, what they're going to do, and what's really going to go on there. And I have concerns about that, as I'm sure other people on Diamond Lane do. And I just want to voice my opinion on that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. We appreciate everyone that comes out. Anybody else? Yeah, come on up. Hi.
Hi, I'm Tina Wallace, and I'm at 59 Diamond Lane. Micah, I am also in a butter to your property right up above where you, where your property is, where the next one up, the Peralt's property.
Yeah,
My apologies.
no problem.
I'm vertically challenged. What happened tonight was great to see how the process worked on this. I do just want to say, and I believe that I put it in the letter that I put to the select board. I trust that each person read the letter. I'm afraid that some of the things may have been a little bit off because now I'm being told that the zoning and everything is not accurate that's on the website. So is that what was said earlier? The zoning variances and, or the table, excuse me, the zoning
use
table. The
Yeah.
use table.
It's
was
not that it isn't right. There isn't a use that they came forward to apply for. We couldn't find a use that was
Okay.
allowed or conditional in RR3 that fit what they're doing.
Perfect. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. My question that I do have, because Micah, I have not had the opportunity to talk to Micah. So Micah, I'm kind of directing this more to you and Melissa as I speak to the board, okay? Just because I want to be a good neighbor. But when when my husband and I purchased the property, which is owned jointly, for some reason, Hollis doesn't charge him taxes. They only charge me taxes. But
Well, lucky you.
Yeah, I know. But when we purposely and intentionally researched and purchased a property that was not just in a small town, but was on a private road, because there was a reasonable expectation of a low density and a calming area that we lived in, which we do. We do very much so. To add something of this nature on the road, okay, one of my biggest concerns is we have a lot of children on our road. To have continual transient non-residents coming in, we don't know who these people are. That scares me as a resident, for not just my safety and the safety of my property, but for the safety of the people on the road. Not knowing who people are coming all the time is concerning. That is probably my biggest issue. My second largest issue, and I think you heard it here tonight, we live in a residential zoned area. I'm assuming that that residential zone would have to be changed to commercial zone unless, I guess under the conditional, it would not. But I think you heard tonight, and I know that in Micah's presentation at the last board meeting, he mentioned that the property was large enough to have additional lots, so that is additionally concerning, that down the road, and once you let one in, then it's a lot easier to say, oh yes, well, and we did it before, we have to do it again. But then we also heard another resident who is across the street from us say, if you're gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And if anybody has seen the cleared property there, it is expansive. That is a huge concern to me, that I am hoping that within the guidelines and the ordinances of the town, that would be taken into consideration. I don't have anything against people wanting to do what they want to do on their property. Again, right, the transit, having continual turnover of people is concerning, and it's concerning for my property as well. As far as, I was a camper. We did camping with our kids in campgrounds. I've seen firsthand that they do not respect the property that they're staying on or the properties around them the same way that residents do. So those would just be the things that I would ask. I'm actually asking Micah and Melissa to just take that into consideration as you look to, to potentially pursue this. But lastly, I just want to say thank you. I know you guys have a thankless job. Public service can be a thankless job, and I want to say thank you for
thank you.
the time and the research that you do in order to make this the town that we all want to live in.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much. And it's not our job. We volunteer for this. So.
Well, that makes it, yes, an unpaid, thankless job.
We
So
really
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you for saying so. Can I ask anyone else would like to come up? You can. Yeah, we'll do one more, and then we're gonna have to. You guys can converse. Yeah, you can converse outside. A lot of times things like this. Oftentimes we see people meeting each other for the first time, and you'd be surprised at how this is actually a very common experience. So thank you very much for coming out. I almost threw up my dinner when I saw that we had this many people here tonight, because I wasn't planning on it. I usually know, I can usually tell which ones are gonna bring out a lot of people. So thank you for coming out and showing how much you care about your own neighborhood.
So Tina, nice to meet you, and thank you for coming out. I appreciate you speaking, and I understand your concern. I fully understand what you're talking about, what your concern is. The traffic, I would see this as like one camper coming in per week, So they come in, they stay, they leave. It's minimal traffic. The other thing too is, for rowdy people that are going to cause problems, they're more likely to go to a place that has more amenities and more things to do for, someone of that nature. This is more likely to be somebody that's not looking for, someone who's looking for privacy and a place to relax. Also, a lot of these sites that somebody would find something like this on, like if it was on a site, they rate their users, so we would be able to see what type of rating they had, kind of like Airbnb, I guess. Like you can see if anyone has had problems with them, if they were breaking bottles or staying up late. So we could choose to not rent to people like that, and we could look at the sites together, and we could come up with I would agree to come up with like a rating cap where we wouldn't rent to anybody less than a certain number, to try to keep things peaceful over there.
So I hear what you're saying, Micah.
Yep.
But I think on the flip side of that, a private small lot like that is exactly where someone who is trying to get children is also going to choose to go. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry to have to take it to that extreme, but that is a reality in the society that we live in. And we have a lot of children on our road.
All right. Let's no, you're fine. If you guys want to talk about it, you can talk about it outside. I'm not kicking you out. I'm not saying
It's valid points, but not ones that the planning board has to that should be taking up during the public. That's all. It's not. Please don't
don't take it personally.
Yeah, don't take it personally. Please do. Please do. Thank you for coming out.
Please come help us when we redo the subdivision regulations, folks. Give us your input so we can make it better.
I think we'll move forward to planning for our next meeting, July 8th, 2026. I believe that there is a good chance that if the Talon Estates applicant agrees to extend, I don't think that we are likely to have SMPDC's response until the end of July. So we may, if we don't get any applications in and we don't need to do anything as a board from the bid perspective, then I think we may find that we will not have a meeting if we don't get any applications in the next 7 days.
And that meeting's on the 6th?
On the 8th.
8th, okay. I'm going
July
to Montana.
8th.
I'll be back on the 7th.
All right. Well, you'll be back in time. Now, we do need to get started on our ordinance drafting, re-engage in our ordinance drafting. I'll be honest, I'm hesitant to do that during the summer months because we don't have very many of them in the summer. But Butch, you haven't, or Ashley, you haven't heard anyone give we should be being a little bit more proactive on our ordinance drafting if we think there is going to be a warrant article in November. Hearing that the comp plan The comp plan committee isn't saying like, oh, we're definitely going to have a vote in November.
Right.
That leads me to think we may not have one in November.
Well, I think the reason for that, I think that the acceptance or declining of the comprehensive plan has to be at a major election period, not a referendum election.
Yep.
So I think that's the reason that we're talking about.
So does that mean it wouldn't be until the fall? So
June of next
June is a referendum, not a major
Well, I'm
election.
talking the June one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the town, the
the town
normal
meeting.
town meeting one,
Yep.
yes.
So that is generally not, so the town can choose to put up a warrant at the election in, like, I suppose the town can choose to put up a warrant at any point they want to. The select board can. But generally try to do it with a larger election because there is a cost associated with
Right.
a warrant article vote. And there are times that the town chooses not to take on the additional expense of doing a warrant article in November. We always do one in June because that's where we approve the budget. Our fiscal year runs from June to July, July to June. So I think I always count on knowing that we will have the opportunity to put, and I always push for that timeline of the June election. But sometimes I may not push as hard for November if I don't get a sense that there's a likelihood that there'll be a warrant.
Well, there's certainly going to be a vote in November.
Yes.
And I think we ought to prepare some stuff
Okay.
and present it
Okay.
if we can. And when we don't have an application here to take up our time, we can get a lot of housekeeping done, I
Yes.
think.
I just much prefer to do that in January than in August. That
I
is that
understand.
personal
I
opinion.
understand.
So what would be, we've had our kind of list of priorities. We now have gone through a situation where the town has voted and agreed that the changes that we made to the zoning ordinances in the definitions are now in. I think we were working on the performance standards. Do we want to continue the performance standards? Do we feel that the subdivision regulations are starting to become a little bit more of a priority? Greg, did you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, so I think we should shoot to have something on for a vote once per year and not shoot for every six months. I think it should be our goal to do every June. I think trying to do June and November is too much for the board. That's how I think I would like to see it go. I think trying to go for, we just got something passed in June to now turn around and try to get something ready for November. I think it's unrealistic in my opinion.
So I will say that we do have some state law. So we also have that body of state law that we have to deal with. And we had talked in previous meetings that there are some pieces of that will be very simple changes that we as a board don't need Southern Maine Planning's assistance on. When I think there's a parking provision that has little to no application to the ordinances in Hollis. Things like that, I think we could get done and put them aside. If there's a referendum or if there's a warrant article in November, we ask to have it on the warrant. I would like to ask the select board to give us their deadlines, just like they do for June, so that we actually know what we're looking at in terms of deadlines.
Probably already missed it.
And I would also say that part of the changes that were approved in June is that now we can have our public hearing on things that we are going to bring in front of the select board. We can have that at any point that we want. It's no longer tied to the date of the election. So that is good. But I agree with what Greg says as well. If we are skinnied up now, so there's fewer of us to take on the work, the time consuming work, right? These meetings are not time consuming in comparison to reviewing and writing ordinances and then talking about them and all the extra meetings.
And you
that
do
can
the
happen.
brunt of that.
I mean,
Ordinance
only
work.
because only because that's what I do. And I've
But
kind
it's
of
a lot
taken
of your
it on.
time.
Yeah, I've
I
taken
mean-
it on to kind of get the zoning ordinance updated. Knowing that we have the comprehensive plan coming soon, I also find that when you do an update, you learn the ordinances a lot better. And, unlike Butch, I don't have a really great memory. So I need that kind of like reminder sometimes of things. It happened tonight when I went and I was like, oh yeah, we have conditional use permit. We have things that these are the things that the planning board reviews. And if that didn't come in front of, if that didn't become any of them, then that is something I think we need to address, whether or not we want to add any referral from code enforcement or whether because that's what this was. This was a referral from code enforcement. Code enforcement said he wanted planning board input. I believe that there is somewhere in the zoning ordinance that code enforcement has the right to ask for planning board input.
Just like he did on the IOP up in.
Yep. And I certainly don't want to close that loop down, but maybe it's maybe does the issue stay in the hands of code enforcement, but we are providing assist instead of it being referred over to us in a formal conditional use application. I don't know. But I think we could write some ordinance language that would make that a little bit more clear, and that would help code enforcement and us in terms of what things get just referred over versus, partnering together on stuff. I think that is, I loved it when code enforcement actually came to the planning board meetings. That was part of their job. That was a while ago, but that made it a lot easier for us and code enforcement to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, we'll take this thing with Micah.
Mhm.
He came wanting to do something,
Mhm.
and Dwayne couldn't find any place that said he could do it.
Yep.
So he has parameters he has to go by too. He comes with an application. He's got to accept it, deny it, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think he did. He couldn't find anything, so he denied it, referred it to us. I think that was the thing that he was supposed to do in that case.
Yeah.
And we can't find anything. And we've discussed it with him, and he's pulled the application. He probably needs to submit a letter that he's doing that, so we can put this section to bed here. But
We do have it on public record. So.
Well, yeah.
Ashley, will you send an email just saying planning board would like to confirm that you have formally withdrawn your conditional use application? We have his email, right, Micah? Yeah, that you've formally withdrawn your conditional use
Yeah.
application. Then he can just respond with a yes, and then we have the paper trail that we need.
Yeah.
And thank you, because I didn't think of that piece, and we'll make sure to, that's something that we could put into the conditional use review, is that at the end, if the applicant is going to withdraw, we need written confirmation of it. Those are the types of things that I think make it a stronger ordinance when we have those things laid out. So I agree with you, Butch. I agree with Greg in terms of, I think we always need to be shooting for any changes that we want, in that June timeframe. But I don't see any reason why we can't agree to
Well,
one meeting a month during.
I just tell you what I do. I go through these things and I make notes.
Yep, I do the same.
And when we get ready to do things, I bring my notes up.
Yep, I do the same
And
thing.
that's, whatever I'm
Now,
working
what do you
on.
do when our ordinance gets updated and then all your notes are in the old one and
Well,
Ashley gives us a new one? No, I just transfer my notes. Which we will have that does remind me, we will have new ordinances. I think it's going to take me a hot minute because I've started to get confused. I started to get confused myself, and I wrote both versions of these. So the version that is going to be the final formal version up on the town website after the June election, we've got to give it to Bennett in final form. So that's what I'm working on now. It's no additional changes to what we've already agreed to and what the residents agreed to. What's the land use? SMPDC writes a state law land use guide. Really, it's just a copy of all the ordinances that that are in effect in Maine. It's state law. I don't think that there's much actual guidance. I think it's all just statutes. But they are issuing a new one, or they are about to issue a new one. Yeah, this is all statutes. I don't read statute in a book. I read it online because I know that what's online, what the state has online is the most recent. But many people find this to be a very helpful resource. Yeah. I didn't want to order one for everyone on the board. I thought I would just ask you guys what you wanted. If you want a book, they're $20. It's not an expense. It's not an outrageous expense. I'm not going to get one myself, but you all are more than welcome to if that's something that you think you want. You can let Ashley know, or you can let me know right now.
I'd take a book because I have the small phone.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Look, I'm on a computer 14 hours a day. Yeah, so for me, it's nothing to go look them up. And I kind of like it when there is a mix, when someone's looking at it in the book and someone's looking at it online. I just like, it ensures that we're looking at the same things.
Why don't I take yours for a week or so and see if I want one?
Yep, sure.
Thank you.
Let me make sure I don't have any secret notes in here.
I won't tell anybody if I find them.
I don't. How about you, Tommy?
Good to go.
You're good. How about you, Greg?
I'm good with online.
All righty. All right, then. So plan for next meeting. So what I would like to do, July 8th is pretty close to that. My favorite holiday. I don't know about you guys, but I would be more likely to cancel July 8th and hold the second meeting of the month in July than I would be to do it the opposite way. We want to make sure that we get moving forward and address some of the things that we have on our plate, even if we don't have an application. Would that be okay with everyone?
Yes.
All right.
Make a motion to the July 8th meeting.
All right. So does anyone want to second that? We can't make that decision yet, Greg, because we don't have if we get an application in the next week, we should put it on.
100%. So we just wait.
Okay. But that will be the plan if we don't get one.
Sounds like a good plan.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right. And a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye,
Thank
Greg.
you. I would also say that if we are going to do ordinance work, as much as I